So I appreciate this doesn't mean anything to you, but for some reason, I need to state for the record that I recorded exactly what I'm going to say to you today, yesterday, and I recorded the whole thing. I was like, fuck yeah, I did it. I was so happy with it. And then I discovered the microphone wasn't turned on. And so the whole footage was lost. And so I went to record it again, but it didn't come out exactly right. And the reason for that is because what we're going to get into today, I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to do it in a way that's fresh and makes sense right now, because there is a part of my own wounding in this question that we're going to get into that I healed as a result of giving the video. And so I tried going back into my old plan. I have like notes, to go through in order to talk about this, but I couldn't talk about it. It wasn't relevant. It wasn't even authentic anymore because the healing was happening in real time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this with you now. I'm going to talk about this subject, and I'm going to do it in a way that makes sense right now. And I think in a way that's actually even more shorter and sharper and concise than it otherwise would be. So you are going to benefit from the missing footage. And this is going to be a very good high level treatment of this subject. So I wanted to share that just right out the gate. So now let's get into it. So today's question is, are you wasting your life, you piece of shit? Just kidding. But it is, are you wasting your life? Am I wasting my life? And let's just take a quick minute to allow this heavy, emotional question to just land, because it is a very heavy question. And it's a question that triggers deep wounding in our culture. Everybody feels it. In fact, just on a lark, I had this inspiration to ask the question on Reddit, on r/Get Disciplined, and I'll link it below so you can read it, where I just said like, hey, are you afraid that you're wasting your life? And everybody jumped in. There was like 70 responses, and everybody weighed in. They had their say. And some people were like, yes, like I am afraid I'm wasting my life. Other people, not so much. Other people had clearly transcended the problem itself, which was like super cool and enviable. And so I went in and I asked all these people follow-up questions because I really wanted to drink it in and really learn about how pervasive this question is and how people overcame it. And so then a little bit later, I had, my own little journaling sort of contemplation sort of session, because I realized as I went into this, that this wounding is also very much in myself. And not only that, but it's actually been the major story of my life. It's been this major story arc where I've had this pathological fear of wasting my life and had this opposite sort of pathological desire to do the opposite of wasting my life, which in my own verbiage is to manifest my potential, actualize my potential. And so I made this whole business even out of it, of being a productivity coach in order to teach and learn how to be productive. This being, as far as I could tell, just the best strategy to not waste my life and actualize my potential, right? So this was a really good time then, especially around the time of my birthday, just a couple of years ago, or a couple of days ago. I'm 38 years old now, to really like figure out like, okay, what the fuck is it? What is this question? Is it real? Like, can you actually waste your life? Because in the final analysis, if it is a real question with a real answer, then the only thing that I want is the answer. I want to know how to do it right and at least figure out how to figure it out. But if it turns out it's a false question, like a bogus question that, like there's no such thing as really wasting your life or actualizing your potential or whatever. Like if there's something wrong about the question, then I want to know that too. And I want to put the whole thing to rest and step beyond it. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what I figured out. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to weigh both sides. Here's the plan. This is very simple. I'm just going to weigh both sides and then I'm going to give you the conclusion. And then we'll call it a day. I'm going to keep this as short as I possibly can. My last video was 50 minutes, so I'm going to reward you with a sub 20-minute video. Good. Also, I'm Brent. So have we ever met before? And my name is Brent. I'm a coach. I teach people this stuff. I teach people how to trust themselves, how to discover and follow their intuition, how to make real what they feel is possible about themselves and their lives in the world, through different forms, like different, say, habit setting, consistency techniques, self-discipline if that's necessary, or just simply trusting yourself and getting clear in your mind and getting your head out of your own ass. So if you suffer from any of these problems, you can get a free session. Get a free session with me. I'll hook you up, show you how it works. And if you want more, you can have more. Let's get on with the show. So on one hand, it would really seem like the answer is no. Is it possible for me to waste my life? No. And why would we say that? Because the idea itself implies that there's some form of judgment about it. So like, in other words, like if you were to, visit some sort of alien planet and visit an alien forest with all sorts of different life forms, could you find anything there wasting its life? Yeah, like obviously not. And the reason why not is because you'd have to have a way of judging whether or not that life is wasted. If you don't have a way of judging, if you don't have a way of saying like this is the right way or this is the wrong way of doing it, then there's no way of knowing and the question just becomes moot. And so, if we bring our attention back to Earth and humanity, the same thing applies where if there is a way of wasting your life, that criteria by which you can waste or not waste your life is still a human creation. It's made by a human mind. It doesn't exist anywhere other than a human mind. And so that's what I mean when I say like there's no fundamental reality to it. Yeah, that's that. And so, but at the same time, okay, like we have that, but then we also have this other problem, which is it sure feels that way. It sure does. Like, let's just say, for example, if you, for the remainder of your life, just chose only to go with your most instant gratification impulse. So you're like only eating candy, drinking alcohol, taking drugs. You're not, you're gaining weight and you're just like not trying to like do anything for your health or your life, and everything just falls apart and atrophies, and you just kind of move along that way, and you just don't try in any regard. You would very likely get to the end of your life and look back on it and go like, well, I think that was wrong. Like, I think I shouldn't have done it that way. I should have done it differently. And you'd have sort of a regret about it. Another interesting example that I came up with is being a career Olympic pole vaulter, where I'm not saying necessarily this is a waste of life, but I am saying like, just imagine that you allocated 30 years, 25 or 30 years to being a gold medalist in Olympic pole vaulting. And let's say you do that. And so you manage to get your gold. How would you feel looking back on all that? Because on one hand, you'd feel amazing, right? It's like, oh my God, I got my gold medal. I'm the best in the whole world. But then I would imagine that you'd also wonder, like, what the hell was that all about? Was that really the best way of spending my time? Because ultimately there's nothing transferable about this skill. Like, you can't go to work as a pole vaulter. Like, the best you could become is a pole vaulting coach, right? Or something like that. But you'd ask like, okay, what's the point? Is it really valuable? And you would wonder if you'd wasted your life. Other ones are, let's say there is something that you feel like you want to do, like you want to make music or make art or create some sort of product or service, and you want to put out in the world, and you've had it in your imagination, and like your whole life you've been waiting to getting around to doing it, and you would just like love the whole process of it. Like, it's really exciting to think about, but you never do it. At the end of your life, would you regret that? Would that feel like a waste? So there's no getting around this element. There's no getting around the fact that you could make a series of choices where you get to the end of your life and look back on it. You would wonder if you had done the right thing, it wouldn't really sit well with you. And so this does imply that there's some possible reality to doing your life right or wrong. So those are the two ends of it, as far as I can see. Now, I will say that this grief around having not lived your life properly, the fear of that grief, the fear of getting to the end of your life and the blinders are pulled off, the veil is lifted, and you suddenly realize that you have been chasing the wrong thing this whole time. You've been living wrongly. And the answer is just like right there, and you never did. That's really scary for me. And it's really scary for a lot of people that I've spoken to. It's really scary to think that you did it wrong and it becomes clear at the very end. And it's also scary to think that your life could have been so much better than it was had you made the right choices. And it puts me in a position now where I freak out and I think, okay, I want to make the right choices, and I try to figure out what the right choices are. But what I've been inherently realizing over time, very slowly, is that to ask even the question, what am I supposed to do? What's the right thing to do? Is a really confusing question. The question doesn't produce anything useful. Even if you can imagine an answer to it, it doesn't produce anything useful. What's the thing that I'm supposed to do? Because all of us know, if we're being really honest at the bottommost level, that there is nothing that we're supposed to do. Like, we do know that. And the situation that we're caught in is that, like, we know that there's no truth to, like, you know, here's what I'm supposed to do. Like, we all know on some level that we're here to do whatever we want. But it just feels like it. It just feels like there's a right way and a wrong way to live. So what do we do? So good. Okay, so now I can share with you what I've come up with, what I've realized. The fear itself and the paradigm itself of the possibility of wasting my life and the opposite of wasting my life, which is actualizing my potential and doing what I'm here to do and becoming everything that I can possibly become. This is sort of like a carrot and stick. There's sort of a heaven and a hell element about it, where it's like, here's the hell that I'm trying to avoid. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen. And here's the heaven that I'm trying to get to. This is the best thing that could possibly happen. And what does that say about where I am right now? It's a form of purgatory. Isn't this so? Just sort of a middle ground. It's sort of a waiting room. It's sort of a liminal space. And there's a conviction that unless I do everything that I possibly can do to get into the heaven, I will default to hell. Like, imagine if you just don't do anything, if you stop worrying about this, if you stop thinking about it, there's just this sense of like, I will not have totally accomplished what I came here to do. So the key is that you and I can start wondering, what would it be like to live outside this paradigm? Because the really important operative question that arrives here is this paradigm of heaven, hell, and purgatory useful? This is a really good question. Is it useful? Is it advantageous? Is it good for me? Because the one thing that we notice right off the bat, as soon as we start playing with this question, is it feels really bad. It feels scary, doesn't it? It feels heavy. It feels disempowering, doesn't it? It also puts us in an adverse relationship with time. Sorry, let me just adjust here. It also puts us in an adverse relationship with time, because time is something that we're trying to beat. Time is something that's running out. And the texture of our life has this heavy obligatory feeling about it. It's like we're not having fun anymore, are we? Right? We're not having fun. We're taking a test. We're trying to get somewhere. And there's a sense that if I could just get there, if I could get to this point where I'm, you know, really actualizing my potential, if I really dot my I's and cross my T's and do everything right, then I'll be able to get there. And then what happens when I get there? You know, AKA, what happens once I reach heaven? Well, then, I mean, what is it? Like, fill in the blank. I can finally relax. Can't I? I can finally feel good about myself. I can finally love myself. I will finally be worthy of my salt. You know, I'll be worthy of the space that I take up. I will finally be justified. Right? What is it? Like, so I really encourage you to take a minute now to figure out what is the reward that you can finally release to yourself as soon as you reach this heaven, as soon as you pass the test. So looking at this whole paradigm, we once again wonder, what would it be like to exist outside of it? Notice how it feels right now. Notice what happened in your body. Right? No, because for me, it just feels better immediately. It's like, oh my God, what if this paradigm, I hope you're clear on what I'm talking about when I say the paradigm, I just mean the heaven and hell thing, right? What if it's just a nightmare that we've generated as a culture, as a society, that we've bullied each other into? It's a product of the Industrial Revolution, right? A product of the Enlightenment. And what's amazing, right, is that if you're watching this, right, what I can surmise about you is that you've already been thinking about this at least a little bit, probably a lot. And you've probably, like, I imagine whenever I get on these videos, I'm speaking to somebody who's disillusioned from old school productivity, old school hustle grind culture. Like, you're really fed up with it. You're not really one who wants to be covered in gold and jewels, for societal benefit. You're not looking to be a king or queen sitting on the throne and to have power over people. Like, this is not really what motivates you. Like, I've been witnessing, even on Reddit, just in the last 10 years, like a massive, massive movement of disillusionment and disenchantment off of that kind of mode of ambition. What was I saying? Oh, right. That is just, it's a product of this old school form of thinking, something that we're all culturally weaning off of right now. So imagine what it's like to exist outside of it. Notice how you are, on some level, able to. Notice how you're able to access it, even if it's vague and not articulated and it's kind of something you're not in the habit of doing. It nevertheless is there because the fear of wasting your life and the pathological desire to actualize your potential, the need, in other words, the need to actualize your potential and become the most you can be, is just a nightmare. It's just a form of hypnosis. It's just a dream. It's a mental configuration. It's a story that you're inside of, right? That's like five ways of naming one thing, right? And notice what happens when you bring attention to it, because how hypnosis is broken is to become aware that you're hypnotized. How to notice when you're in the pain body, this is Eckhart Tolle's term, the pain body, is to just say, I'm in the pain body. That's how you come out of it, right? It just in the same way when you're like in a dream, like an actual sleeping dream, once you become aware that you're in the dream, that's typically when the dream dissolves. Isn't this so? So you are bringing attention to the nightmare that you're in, this treadmill that you're on. You don't have to fight it. Like, there's nothing to do about it now. Just here, say this. Please repeat after me. Please repeat. I'm in a nightmare. I'm in a nightmare. Thus is the nature of my nightmare. Thus is the nature of my nightmare. I'm convinced that I'm wasting my life. I'm convinced that I'm not actualizing my potential. And we'll do the reverse. I'm convinced that I'm actualizing my potential. And then finally, what's the last one? I'm not convinced I'm wasting my life. Good. How does that feel? So really, what if the question of, am I wasting my life, bringing this full circle now, is just a matter, it's not a matter of answering the question, it's a matter of dissolving the question. The question itself represents an addictive clinging, an addicted, like a fear addiction kind of thing. where we think as long as there's even a small little speck of a chance that it's possible for me to fail at my life, then the stakes are too high. And I better stay with the safe thing. I better just stick with productivity and hustle and grind culture and wake up early and eat celery and, and really force myself to do all these things and really get ahead. Because the fear of wasting my life is just too damn high. The stakes are too high. We're playing too big a game. I better play it safe. I totally get that. And so that's why we just keep looking at it. We just keep saying, okay, I really am convinced that it is possible for me to waste my life. I really am convinced that it's possible for me to fail at this. I'm convinced that failing at my life is the worst possible thing that could possibly happen, right? And I'm noticing even as I say it now, I'm just going more and more meta on it. I'm realizing that this is just like industrial revolution style speech. That's just what it is, right? How much of this shit was never ours to begin with? Actualize your potential. Waste your life. Waste your life. Where did the idea come from? Whose idea is it? So the final thing I want to leave with you is this. Don't believe me, right? Don't just believe what I'm saying, because if you try to do it, if you just try to believe me, then there will still be fear and you'll still have to fight with yourself and convince yourself, and there will be this nagging, gnawing belief that you may possibly waste your life, and that's no good. Instead, just continue to be honest about how you are afraid of it. That there is that fear here, and you are convinced by that fear, and you do find that fear to be convincing, despite knowing better. And just continue to honestly say, yes, I'm afraid. Yes, I'm paralyzed by this fear. I do think it might be real. By stating it like this, in honest truth, it permits homeostasis to come. It permits that which is false to be taken from you. And then it will dissolve like a bad dream. And then you'll find yourself in heaven, where now you can just do whatever you want. You can just do whatever you want. There's actually a lot more to be said about how good this is, because like if I say to you, go do whatever you want, from inside the nightmare, that translates to, okay, just let yourself get into hell and just succumb to hell, right? That's how it translates. Just do whatever you want. But that's not what I'm saying. It's actually totally different. When I say go do what you want, even if you were to do something that you feel like would be a waste of your life, such as, succumbing to instant gratification or like any one of these examples, what would happen is you would do that thing so congruently that you would actually be able to just experience it as a punishment. Like cigarettes, for example, like if you just take away the drama and the push and pull around cigarettes and just smoke it as if there were nothing wrong with it, then eventually you just find it so gross and you wouldn't be able to smoke it ever again. This is how anybody quits. So that's how this works here. So like, just do whatever you want. You live in a territory of choices and consequences. There's nothing that you have to do. You just choose whatever you're going to choose and reap the consequences and live your life in that territory. So do whatever you want. What would you do if you were free to do whatever you wanted? Odds are that whatever answer comes from your deep intuitive faculty. And your intuition knows how to actualize its potential. It knows how to stay on track for your highest and best expansion. So that's it. So as you can see, I'm still working out some of the kinks in this, right? Like there's still little blank spots and question marks here, but this is just so exciting, it's so exciting. And I really want to get better at articulating this, because there's like when I have these conversations with people, like in one-on-one sessions, there are just, you wouldn't believe it, man. There are just so many layers of denial and fooling ourselves, bamboozlery, I call it, that like, you wouldn't know it. So it's hard to really say it in this sort of piercing way, but I'll get there. And I appreciate you bearing with me as I do. Get your free session. Don't miss out. Check out the Sovereign Creators Collective. Don't miss out. Get on my email list. Don't miss out. I love you. I'll see you on the next one.